solution is to keep the
September
game in
29,
footage and
11
getting more and
p.m.
more frustrated along the way. That
I
is,
am acutely
until I
aware that my
discovered the
time's
resources
running out.
needed to build an explosive option.
And I hope and pray, by making this recording
At first
and
I had
bringing the
briefly
truth
launched
to
it at my
light,
disposal, but with some
that I can
modification it
restore
turned
some
into a rocket
small shred
launcher.
of honor to
Now
my
I
name.
was a serious threat to these necromorphs, but to balance my newly acquired
All over
godlike
Gotham
power,
City,
I had to make sure I didn't
suffering
use this thing in close
began
quarters
with the
because the splash
release
damage
of a
would take me out
biological
even
weapon
faster
known
than
as
the
the
necromorphs I was
T-virus.
shooting at. And on a
My
completely
employer,
unrelated
the
side
Umbrella
note,
Corporation,
including the
engineered
stasis
this
effect on
virus.
shots made these
And they
melee stages
ordered
turn into
my
some
team
kind of
to
slow
develop a
motion,
vaccine,
hilarious
which we
reminder
did.
of just how dumb I was
I
being.
keep samples of this vaccine here in my office. The rest of it is stored underground. But those sons of bitches in the board, they want to destroy it. They don't
But it
want the
wasn't
world
long
to know
after
what they've
this that I
done.
found an upgrade
So they're
against my
trying to
rocket
erase
splash
all
damage to
evidence that the
absolutely
virus
nothing
ever
to me.
existed.
From here on out, pulling the cakewalk would be an insult to the hard work that goes into walking the cave.
No,
I
I'm
was
not a fool.
steamrolling everything I came
I know
across
they
in
don't want me
stasis
to.
coding, and even hits that weren't kills slowed down enemies long enough that I was able to get off another shot with no issue. And oddly enough, this is when the game became actually fun. When I finally found the right combination of guns and buffs, I could actually enjoy the challenge. Sadly, every upgrade that came after
She
that
trusted me anyway.
easier and easier until I started using the plasma cutter again, just to introduce more difficulty back into the experience. So I think it's safe to say that either EA or Visceral had issues seeing that making tiny changes at the foundation level might affect nearly every single aspect of the game that made it recognizably Dead Space. A sentiment that carries over into the other popular gaming mechanics shoved into this title with little to no care. Building off the limited amount of weapon customization that can be found in the other games, TS3 has you collecting resources meant to craft your weapons. Every little aspect of your guns can be customized, and to be totally honest, I really enjoyed this aspect of the game. I spent a very long time in front of these benches just trying to tweak every little aspect of my weapons to make them perfect, and to be totally honest with you,
I got it.
got flashbacks of Parasite and
headed your way.
It's a really good thing.
Be
These
careful.
collectible resources make exploration really more
Have you
fun.
seen
There's
this
an actual, tangible reason to go
It'll
out
be a fucking miracle if I get there in one
up
piece.
one of the workbenches and would be drawn back into making tiny micro adjustments to certain parts of my lineup with the intention of finally making a weapon that felt really good to use. Which led me to the insane realization that I was having way more fun customizing this weapon. I would have to actually use it's also possible to find or found upgrades that affect their stats. So you know, I figured this would be the solution to my shotgun complaints, but at the point in the game when the shotgun was actually viable, giving it my best rate of fire upgrades didn't even giving me to feel like they might have hard-coded some attributes into certain weapons as some kind of twisted misunderstanding of what balance is. That being said, as I entered the late game, I was absolutely dripping with huge stat increasing upgrades. But by this point, the old rocket launcher mounted to a machine gun approach was the absolute best answer to anything the game could possibly throw at me. Meaning we're left with a little detective work to do here. Either we assume that a game studio that has shown twice already that they really understand the intricacies of a mechanically satisfying game, or we shit the bed on one of the most important factors that goes into a third-person shooter, which I guess is technically possible, but not very plausible given the situation. Or by their hand, for EAs, the game was purposely altered, incentivizing spending real-life money on resources, weapons, and upgrades that bring the game to a point of mistake. Of course, I can't really say for certain which one of these scenarios led to this idiocy, but I think we all know what option is the most likely. It seems very clear to me that the early game was purposely made frustrating or at least less mechanically solid, with the direct intention of leading players straight into the pretty substantial list of pay-to-win extras that are still available today. And I doubt very much there's a lot of you that are looking to disagree because, well, you know, EA.
Tyrell, what the hell happened?
Attention all citizens. The contagion
So
spreading
on the
throughout the
plus
city
side, I
has
did
been
finally get
designated
to a point where the game
uncontainable. On
satisfied me
October
in
1st,
Part 2
Raccoon
did,
City
but
will
on
be
the negative
completely
side,
destroyed in a
that
missile
point
strike.
became
All
real further.
residents
It wasn't
capable
too
of
long
rational
after
thought
that
are
that I
urged
was
to
able to
evacuate
essentially break the
immediately.
game with
This
my
is
game.
not a test.
Keep in mind, I didn't go into this with
And that's
that
only a day
intention.
away.
I mean, we're talking about a guy
There's still
who
people in the
uses
city.
Veronica's knife
You
or
think
Final
Uncle
Fantasy
Sam gives a
tactics,
shit?
I did evasion tricks specifically because I like
Here they
to
come.
I
You
guess
sit tight.
their intention of making
I got this.
less fun. Speaking of which, next stupid.
Better grab some gear. Sounds like there's a lot of them out there.
I'm gonna try to lower the window shutters. The left entry point's better.
How do we do that?
I'll try hacking into the hospital security system. Keep them off me in the meantime.
So my consoles went to playing multiple figures of games trying to copy a large part of the system. This copy part of it where the part is always there, manipulated by the person or the AI. But instead, Dead Space consists of players having to elevate from the single player. There are two separate experiences in Dead Space 3. One kind of mind sharing attention. It feels a little different than these 3 months. The story of the atmosphere horror game that you want to get in a way that is for audience. Specifically, box the story of the horror game. I'm not saying I'm confident it's going to fit before you start pouring shit like this. So after all this, it looks like an absolute shit ton of features were baked into this game. As for the majority of the listed fields, don't get me wrong, sequels are supposed to add to their predecessors, but these are supposed to be baby steps. You probably shouldn't add 7 separate beginnings to establish series and expect routines. Honestly, that's a big ball in 2015. A lot of this sense. So you want to spend a dead serious All my listening isn't because this is a bad game. It's more frustration that this game is it's the other choosing the combat. I actually had the tools for it. That's really fun. Overboard, massive amount of action settings. I say, pretty exciting, and they're spread out enough that it doesn't feel like a hopefully or anything. After leaving his apartment, Isaac and the crew get stranded out in space around Atlantis, and while I wouldn't call it open world, it certainly gives you more options than the typical Dead Space game, even if those options include like your secret honestly, at first, I thought this was going to be something like a stalker intro accidents, where perhaps smaller, more open areas to explore with side objectives scattered on the ground. A style I would love to see walking around in Dead Space The puzzles may not sound multi or mind exercises, but there are a shit ton of them. They straddle that fine line between figure out the solution and clear and challenging is one of the scripted cases each time you come across one. This game can have more than the first and second. It's good. I also really like saying that robots have to scavenge for practice. It's like a supposed to like go about the business. There's spots where they'll find the option. So I ended up spending a lot of time backtracking to these locations to find one of these hot spots and putting the music over the guys to work. This was a surprisingly cool little mechanic, and it fitted well with the crowd. It sort of serves as a very tiny, almost Microsoft band-aid to deal with it. This game is obviously shitty practice. Everyone's happy. It's like typically story-driven games like this. I'm pretty short one. I spent 30 hours on this one. While that doesn't mean side content to be away from DLC, going back in and get some footage, I'd say at least a good 20 hours of that was really just playing games. The best part about that being that it was fun enough that the entire game didn't seem like a slog, so I can appreciate what the developer was doing the same thing. The showers stay fun and interesting the whole time. Probably take off this application and use as you guys can actually absorb. Dead Space 3 is about as far from the other Dead Space titles as it possibly could be. It seems clear the money-making trends of the early 2010s were all squeezed into this one package, and I don't exactly know how it's going to this I'm sure the action will turn out the best games. To be totally honest, this happens to varying degrees with nearly every AAA release in the industry. The difference being most companies have the wherewithal to not make their method so damn obvious. As you get it, as well as I will say that it is a relief to see practices like this becoming more and more rare and obvious standards of game development. How Dead Space be a terrible mess or people enjoy the marketplace, company expecting something established high-market quality scene. Of course, there are great issues that exist outside of my own biases or expectations. A lot of these have to be visceral and settled by one This case is a series of different you expect with the big one that's going to start. Plus 3 is the barometer of the next DS game, if we ever see it. First-person open world base building Dark Souls combat, and Jake would be surprised listening to worst intention of finding this game is not disrespect. It is going down the road to a series of events that disrespect. For a short time, this slowly Hollywood version of such an approach, and while it did use a little depth hungry to make it fit here, it still felt like Dead Space here. Now, don't have this constant system. Just pick one and probably plays exactly like that. The bright, always very broken. I I wasn't surrounded in on launch that it's not the best case. It plays really well, really fun. This is a slap expecting something. Back in the last few months, my Twitter and YouTube comment sections have been 2/3 full of people expressing their condolences for the having played it. So far, I've been speaking and everything. I'll be with
Not even close.
Yeah, it seems like when that
At least it's over.
was used against the NPC remake, a lot of
I'm coming back.
Interested in that. Well, I've gone off. The main point is I actually do Dead Space 3.
Vaccine's the real
I
deal.
found locations, pieces, and subject matter
Good.
that interested me.
Going somewhere?
The combat
Damn
Dead
right.
Space 3 is
What do you think
less
you're gonna
garbage
do?
for
Whole city's about to be microwaved.
this approach of another deal.
Call the government. Tell them we found the cure. You stalled for time.
It is fun, cartoons, visceral, amazing,
Lousy motherfucker.
it's still pretty okay with moments of actual greatness hidden in there. So if you're like me and all the negative reviews have kept you away up till now, maybe think about Rabbit and Chief News probably everything for next to nothing or a digital version is some kind of sale. I find more entertainment is fun, but one thing I can guarantee you won't find is something that plays like a Dead Space title and without hyperbole. It's not cheap.
Thank God you're okay.
As the first
Good
game in
news.
Dead Space line to try out
It's over
Crush,
now.
the player as its main
The city's
focus,
safe.
I'd be remiss if I didn't take advantage of it. I put out the word reaching out while this quarters was nice enough to jump in. This surprised me how much it feels well. Speaking of which, I want to give a shout out thanks to Jasmine Spencer for hopping in the multiplayer session with me. It's all hell. You definitely showed some love on this channel in the description. Before we get into that stuff, though, there's one thing I know I can cover. Playing this game with Frank and story scenes. And I think that's something that probably doesn't need to be said, but honestly, those story cutscenes were most of what I enjoyed about 3. So if you're like me,
Where am I?
you really enjoyed trying to play
What's going on?
all of the world, maybe give the single player campaign a try first. And when you do finish the game and decide to start it up with a buddy, I think you'll find the true form it's meant to take from the very beginning. My video covering Dead Space 2, where I said it was some of the most fun I've had in years, I remember a few minutes ago when I mentioned how frustrated I was with Part 3 for feeling nothing like that. Well, ladies, gentlemen, I give you the solution to that issue. Having two guns aimed at the same necromorph really improves the experience here, and it seems clear that this is how the game is balanced for difficulty.
again, sunshine.
You saved my life.
I sure as shit didn't. That was all Carlos. He carried you here and he treated you himself, crazy bastard.
Where is he?
He went underground. Bard stockpiled the vaccine enough to give the city some hope.
Spin-off
He thinks he can do this by himself.
and there are
I'm going after him.
Wait, did you see the broadcast? They're gonna blow the city sky high. I'm trying to get a hold of someone, anyone with the clearance to stop him.
It's definitely
Leave this mess to him. He's professional.
outside
So
of
am
the
I.
documents. I think we're gonna need an E to complete that. S
Right.
A's.
Yeah, I'm not talking you out of
Worse.
The storage facility is underground. Beneath this hospital.
Side
I've lost contact with
relatives.
Carlos.
They're like twins, basically, in the same game. So these games were made for for we. The fact that both Darkside and Relic Chronicles are essentially arcade shooters, you gotta use the gun to shoot. They're very, very gimmicky to begin with. To bring them down a peg, I remember renting these back in the day. Blockbuster was the thing. I wouldn't get into it. I'm old. And I just had fun with them. Just fun little games. That's what these games were. It's just, I wasn't too captivated by the story. I mean, Darkside does branch into its story with Leon, Rouse, and some interesting ideas going on there. Relic Chronicles is more of a retelling of the older games. Not really necessarily a remake, just a retelling. I just think these games are heartless. Go ahead and put those on B tier. Both of them are essentially the same. Ooh, we should do Resident Evil Gaiden next. Resident Evil Ninja Gaiden. What do I have to say about Resident Evil Ninja Gaiden? It sucks. And I hate saying that it sucks because it's a Resident Evil game for the Game Boy Color. How in the ever-living fuck did that work? It's like something here. This is mostly like the canon port of something within the RPG universe, I guess. The sprites are kind of cool, but man, I mean, combat system is atrocious and very unforgiving. How can I compare this? How can I possibly?
So, I like honey barbecue, you like honey barbecue. I like football, I think you like football. We're like the brothers we never had. No, I have. But does he have time for you? Yes, he doesn't yet, because I feel like he'd be here if he did.
He's dead. It's making me. Someone's watching. Let's say this is a pretty fair picture. That's from us, right? Although we sisters are supposed to be invisible, God has nevertheless given us eyes in its eyes. What did you discuss? Arrangements of meeting Paris. Such never took place, but it has taken place. It is a war, and you have to commit to side. Why did the Holy Father in his last official act as Pope choose to leave his enclave? Make this connect. Unforgiving, as in if this were a play, we would be playing the parts, the player would be playing the part of a downtrodden, grabby slumlord. And then the game's combat system, Jesus Christ, but like the Jesus that doesn't live, or Okay, that's basically what this is. Yeah, if you run out of ammo, which you will, given how the input delay can be shooting things in this game. That could be the emulator, not sure, but you're pretty much locked into a death screen. Go ahead and say bottom C tier. It's like pretty much B plus C minus Resident Evil Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden, Resident Evil Revelation. My favorites on this here list, actually, for a game that takes place underwater and, you know, there's a bunch of dead, drowned people and fish zombies. Revelation 1 is the definition of much needed fresh air. This game was released in 2012, like many of RE fans, including myself. We didn't know which direction the series was going to head in. Things were pretty bleak. We probably had a million reports RE4. Yeah, the following mainline game was RE6, so this kind of goes to show that sucked. That's what makes Revelations 1 such a special water gem. This was the return to survival horror, at least in tone. Oh yeah, it was also developed for the NES, which is an impressive feat. Just how much work I had to developing for it's like a little underdog RE title. You can tell there was a lot of attention to detail, a lot of care to this game. I love Remarkable the best of POWs. The best game of the cool Bioshock, Resident Evil crossover. That actually sounds like a great idea. Oh shit. But yeah, this was also the return of Jill Valentine in a fashion that we know and not that weird Resident Evil 5. So Jill, we doing things like that. That single player nacho, so we will go ahead and put that on the S tier. S tier Resident Evil Revelations. Absolutely. Ooh, you know, this one really stands out to me. Resident Evil Dead Aim. How can I forget this game right now? This is gonna be hard. Dead Aim is a complete and utter, what's the word I'm looking for? Paradox. It's a paradox for me. And I think it just kind of speaks to my personal bias. So a lot of you may disagree with me here. I hadn't played Dead Aim at all in the past until, you know, making YouTube videos for like POW lists. You know, I figured I could check out some of the game. This game just shook. It's just like how I can describe it. The best way I can describe it. I am an absolute bore when it comes to early 2000s action video games. That it's something that's so special in my heart. Just growing up and seeing like those cloudy animations, foggy stuff. It's like when I was a little kid, that's the shit right there. The intro alone had me hooked. The music in this game is phenomenal.
I think I can squeeze by.
Vaporwave and house music. It's just, it doesn't feel like the Resident Evil games. It's completely different. Okay, so now, it's not a good game. It's not. Unfortunately, it feels soulless, like the story and griminess of RE. It's missing. I said, you know, this is different. It feels different, which is a good thing, but at the same time, it's just like you can tell there's very, like, there's a lot of things going on throughout the nose of the Spencer and the sign.
Guaranteed to give you
Bruce River or Governor. Oh yeah, it's also dead silent. It's dead silent. I mean, I think the music I heard was to save the thing. I love the save the thing for this game. The enemies, you know, zombies, for the most part, just feel like actual bullet sponges. There's just no rewarding factor to eliminating any of them, or they just feel like they're in the way. So, but there's some pretty cool POW like bosses. So, like I said, paradox. This game is a paradox. There's something to this game. I just don't think anyone's cracked it correctly just yet. This game's a fever dream, and I don't know. I'll go ahead and put it, I would say B minus, C plus tier around it. That's probably good. And I'm being honest.
This looks like Nikolai's work.
These two. I can't really play these, so I can't give them a rating personally. I kind of have heard that they're mediocre, so let's just put them at C tier, I guess. If you guys want to chime in on these two, let me know in the comments. How about Revelations 2? How do I feel about Revelations 2? That's like it's kind of a different feeling between these two, Revelations 1 and 2. See, because these games were released around in both states that the series was in. This one was released after RE6 and the aftermath of and people were just saying that the RE series was dead. Like, really, that's gonna be action games from here on out. No more horror. That's what we're gonna get forever. No classic Resident Evil Field games. Yeah, there's actually two that I have to rank here. Two action RE games that are horrible. They will attest to that, obviously. Revelations 2 is a good game. Again, is it improved on the original? I'd say they're actually about the same, quality-wise. The episodic content kind of was weird, kind of holds it back from a narrative standpoint, because Revelations 1 did have episodic content, but it was more of like going back into the lore of certain characters and expanding the world in a way. This was more of like a perspective into one scenario for different characters. So, I don't know, I like Revelations 1 for that reason. Oh, anyways, the enemies. The enemies in this game absolutely need more love within the fan base. These things, the T-Phobos, POWs, are insanely designed. Possessed dolls from hell. From zombie fish to just non-fishes at all. So this feels more like an A-tier game, I would say. And then here it is. Naval Code Veronica. I mean, do I even have to say this is an S-tier game? This is an S-tier spin-off game. Okay, I might feel differently about it when it comes to the entire series, but this is out. I have like a very big round of the compared to Resident Evil, the game that came out before this. It's almost leaps and bounds. The thing is, it's not like really a drop-down.
How is it no one in the hospital ever noticed all this?
When it comes to Code Veronica, there's a hybrid feeling, a fluid camera angle that will perfectly follow the character, blocking out the scary stuff, and it brings this tense atmosphere. It's just a lot of good camera work in this game. This game is chock-filled with corny 90s cutscene and dialogue. I love it. It's okay, like this, because like within like the style of the game, it makes sense. It just doesn't take itself like too seriously at all. But going at the most cartoony villains in the series, next that one Irving is in plot. These are cartoony attributes. And in the grand scheme of things, you have to understand that only like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and I think like one of the survivor games around at this point is how much Veronica stands out compared to those games. It's completely it's a risky proposition, bringing a fantasy horror video game, which is Veronica, into what we at that point had just a bunch of like military shooters set in horror. It was like the original trilogy was 1, 2, 3 was really like a military city horror game series. And then we had this fantasy castle, almost like Castlevania at that point. I like Code Veronica. I might even love it. I would say this is just an S+. It might be the best one, actually. We'll order that right there. This is an S+ spin-off game, for sure. There it is. Okay, how do I feel about the Outbreak games? We'll go ahead and just jumble them up in one category, both of them. Pretty much the same game. Most of you who've played Outbreak will agree with me that it is the game of all time. Pretty much. It's a very video game. It's a gamey kind of game. It's just a video game. A game that feels like there's just too much of everything happening all at once. As soon as you load up the character screen, you'll be greeted with a bunch of like random faces you've never seen before in the series. The cool thing about these seemingly like random group of people is that they do include RPG elements of sorts. You can see that they have different perks that affect the gameplay. I appreciate that effort. You load up the first scenario. Oh yeah, this game has like a bunch of different scenarios, so it's like a weird progression curve to it. You can already tell it's not like a linear story. This is all over the place. It's not even just gameplay-wise. It's hard to keep track of it. The cutscenes are pretty charming, I would say. The dialogue is absolutely atrocious. I mean, you have the scenarios are more focused around a ragtag group of people. It feels like a George A. Romero zombie flick, which I like. I like that feeling because it's not, you don't really get this in any of the other games. Maybe Resident Evil 3 a little bit. So that feels fresh in the grand scheme of the series. That feels fresh. But then you start playing the game, and I mean, each scenario has its fair share of like scares unique to the environments or scenario that you're in. The group you're in will just randomly move around and start shouting random shit. Stuff that doesn't even make sense within the context of where you're in. It's just random shouting voices.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and ad-free videos on the YouTube Kids app, so kids can bounce the Kids Bop without missing a beat. Try 1 month free.
I mean, you hear voices that are even, so you feel crazy. So you see why I call this game the most video game of all time. I actually like it. I like the idea, but it lacks the execution 100%. We'll put out Break at B, like the bottom of B tier. I think it's a little bit better than Dead Aim, so both of them at the bottom of B tier. They feel like B movies. That's what these games feel like. Well, it's time to talk about one game I'm going to keep playing for a very long time. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. I don't know how many times I've brought up the timeline in this video, but it's kind of important so that you understand the context of this game, what's going on. And that's why Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City was like a moldy block of cheese. This game was dead on arrival. This was an era when Resident Evil was dying. You know, on the eve of Resident Evil 6, this thing came out. It was surely an attempt to capture the crusty, war-horny Call of Duty explosion that was happening at the time. I mean, look at this shit. You know those mistakes of cutscenes for any Modern Warfare title. That's not a diss though. Yeah, I do love me some Call of Duty, right? But, you know, Resident Evil, Call of Duty, do they mix? No, not at all. They shouldn't be mixed. Some of the ideas there were kind of cool, you know, introducing a bunch of cool hunk-like characters with their cool helmets, cool voices, and Hunk himself, like that's one of the only redeeming qualities in this game. Yeah, just go ahead and put that right there. D tier, Operation Raccoon City. I mean, it was hard to play. It was hard. This I've never played, so I don't know. Actually, we might need the F tier for this next one. We might need the F tier for this next one. Resident Evil Umbrella Corps. Yeah, we're down to the last one, and what a way to finish this game. I'll be honest with you, like, complete disclosure, I've never finished this game. Every game that I have rated so far, I've actually played this game, I can't give it a chance. And I've done some research on it, what I've seen and read, not a very good game, and I cannot include it. The worst Resident Evil spin-off in this video reviews cannot include it. Obviously, let's put it there. Again, sort of the same cash grab attempt with Call of Duty exploding all over the place. This was the last one. This was right before. I think this was actually right before Resident Evil 7, which is insane to think about. This was literally, the series was on the brink of extinction. I'm not exaggerating. The series was going to die. Resident Evil 7, this was bad. It's not as F tier, but I'm just going to say right now, Resident Evil 7 saved the series from this right here in its own unique way. You know, from Umbrella Corps, which again, just know, this series reminds me of like Rainbow Six. Yeah, I love Rainbow Six.
I must admit, I respect your tenacity, but I'm afraid our game's ended here.
Yeah, which was your favorite Resident Evil spin-off title? Let me know in the comments down below. If you rank these, and which one is your good, and just give it a viewing, please. And let me know your personal experience in horror with and surviving games, which I was technically not even ranked, just this. What is it? Let's see what's up with that. And have an awesome rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. And as always, professional YouTuber for over 4 years now. And yet during that entire time, I've never had a permanent place to film. We have filmed in Dave's mom's basement, my parents' basement, my in-laws' backyard. Thanks to patrons, thanks to videos doing well, we finally have a permanent place to film. Check it out. These walls. Bro. Go. Puzzle boats.
Dead end. No, wait.
Personal suffering will help me complicate the rest of my pleasure.
Anything else? Feel a kid or something?
Disgust me now.
Next time on House Hunters, it's time for a place of their own. But with small problems. House Hunters.
Apparently, this is Clive Barker's Hellraiser, not to be confused with my cousin Greg's Hellraiser. I don't know, Steve Buscemi's Hellraiser. If you have fun, it's not that. And I've also heard people call their kids Hellraisers when they misbehave, but fortunately, I've been blessed that none of my 3 kids have ever summoned a skin pervert from the torture dimension. But yeah, then we immediately transition a shot inside of a little box that's being sold to a guy with nasty-ass fingernails. Oh, that genuinely guy, I've never seen him jump like that before. He plays with it like Rubik's Cube. He's shirtless and wet and obviously. His house, which is called the Rubik's Cube. Like, he pushes a button that appears to solve it. And he's rewarded with a bunch of folks shooting out, ripping up his flesh until he explodes. Once you get your hands on the Rubik's Cube, you win. And again, yes, Clive Barker, I know what solving the Rubik's Cube is like. What is your point? It's thick with blades and playing games. When I was a kid, you could play stuff without getting hooks stuck in all your body parts. It's EA's fault. They're bad. EA's fault. It's a new bag. Also, I guess this happened inside a nasty-ass house. There's stuff in the kitchen. And a dude with pins in his head puts the dead dude's face back together. I mean, he seems like he's really good at arts and crafts. There's a website called The Interesting Game. I wonder if I'm going to be able to show anything that happens in the series without getting monetized. I mean, they banned Dave's OnlyFans, which was very Hellraiser themed. Some pleasure, blah, A-E-A sport. Alright, so my Patreon if you want to throw up all over your fans. And a Dave OnlyFans picture on there. But yeah, then Pinhead picks up the cube and seems to reset things to normal-ish. This is what I'm looking to. Right then, a couple shows up. Voila. One is like, that's one word for it. But the guy's like, I haven't been here in 10 years since my mom died. Oh, your parents are tight. I bet my dumbass brother Frank has been living here. I guess he needed to hide him or something. And it's important to know that he's an American boy and she's a British girl. He wants to move in, and she's originally hesitant. She's European and doesn't understand that America. We feel privileged to share an old shoebox on the road with 150 other patriots.
Next time on House Hunters, it's time for a place of their own. But they have a small problem. Hunters, Thursday night at 10 on HGTV.
But she changes her mind when she finds Frank's old rat nest full of filthy photos of women he's tied up and banged. And it's like, are you serious? I mean, it makes sense to me. She also sneakily puts a
photo of Frank in her pocket, which that's normal in Europe. So now they're moving in. The American boy's daughter shows up and gives her that on the lips because that's what Americans do, especially if mother's dead. And to cool herself off from that hot daddy kiss, daughter sprays herself in the face. We also get intercuts between the movers and daddy start to move the mattress up the stairs, and the stepmom shortly up.
Can I come in?
Literally on top of her wedding dress, seemingly moments after the wedding ceremony. Between this and the photos, Frank really seems to like strange vibes.
Says, wait, what? Let's take 5 guys.
They're going all out too, with fingers and mouths, and the guy's knives. By contrast, Frank's brother absolutely forced his hand home. Anyone has ever had a more horrific mattress accident.
Yeah.
Blood everywhere.
You are fired from
The big brave boy though goes to join like, how please, oh my god, no, I hate blood.
It's blood.
You know, man, blood. To be fair, he is flopping all over the floor. They leave for the hospital, the floorboards start jumping around and sucking down the blood like a public domain Encanto slasher.
Oh yeah.
And then some goop appears and something grows out of it. And it's so gross that even the rats are in it. Julia revisits the goopy room later that night and makes a face like, wow, this room is yucky, but you already knew that. Did you ever think to clean up your husband's blood? No? Well, look what happens when you don't clean up your bloody mess.
Julia, I'll get him off.
That's right, it congeals into a good version of Frank.
Hello, hi, I'm the one you Steven. You were something to me when you went to your house.
That's right, her husband's blood brought Frank sort of in. Like 60%, but he's gonna need a bit more blood before he can flower like a cookie. And Julia's like, makes sense. How else are you gonna help raise your head if you can't get blood flowing? And I just realized that she looks exactly like a female Jimmy Fallon. You can see why Frank likes her so much. I mean, that ice cream is tasty. So Julia heads to a bar where a dude instantly hits on her. Because British people are the worst. It's like 1 p.m. This guy's like drunk. He's like, oh, you looking for a friend? A mate?
Domestic abuse in a bar. But on our other
she brings it back to the house. It's like, hey, what are we bad? And he gets in bed. If you pass out drunk there, you lie me. And in fact,
I've always preferred.
I'll get him off.
He has no counter to this, so he starts taking his clothes off while she starts peeling him with a hammer. Oh, poor thing. Okay, 2 things. One, is Frank, is he that great? Why weren't he and Julia still together? Where was she when he was off in Morocco buying sexual Rubik's Cube? Is his deed really worth murder? Anything in there? This is the 80s, and I mean, just look at Frank. He's definitely not a dude who's gonna, solve Rubik's Cube down. You know what I mean? Seems like a very selfish lover. Help me. What about me? And possibly me. Help me. And 2, Frank got pretty far back in life with just a hand. Feels like a pretty big leap to jump to wholesale murder. Does she not give some of her hand blood first as a trial run? Maybe steal some from a blood bank? That's certainly a lesser crime. And then maybe, I don't know, strangle a cat up there and see what that does? See if Costco has a sale on steaks that you can bring out and see the dog's blood. I mean, just see if maybe explore your options a bit before you jump into full-on serial killing, which is a lesson we can all take to heart, Dave. But hey, you can't argue with results and Frank looks either. Oh no, better go hide the body. She also sucks, to be fair. It's all kind of a wash. It's a bunch of weird people doing good stuff. Julia heads back up to the attic to check Frank, and he's like, baby girl, I think I only need like one more bite, 2 times, and then I'll be back in fine form. One more, maybe 2, possibly 3. And she's like, oh, that means fine. Fine. Also, they need to hurry because he's up this thing. I used to go London, and they're going to be fine in a minute. So he takes that stride. Frank's context I'm missing. I know Cenobite is a real word and all that, but Cenobite kind of sounds like cereal for movie nerds. Here's another dead guy. And he's got the salad dressing. Can I do that, please? It's like the Cenobite start chasing me. As he like crawls along the ground and sticks his finger in her mouth, and she's like, "Oh, we don't want that." I guess if like a goofy man appears in your report, just like whatever he says, it's probably he knows more about this situation than I do. I'm just gonna trust we all have our you might have done the Okay, now Frank explains that the Rubik's Cube opens doors to the layers of heaven or hell, and the Cenobites helped him experience things beyond his limits. Which the thing ripped his whole body apart. And I guess the Cenobites are the dudes with pins in their heads. But Julia's like, Greg, how the hell do you know fish? You don't do or say anything you did in that weird goofy games. I bet Frank could get her to agree to an adjustable mortgage if he just killed her. Yeah, it's pretty easy. By the way, I should mention that in the background while this, the daughter has been taking a boy and dreaming about her dad dying and being plucked like a chicken. She also was working in a pet shop where a dude comes in and eats the bugs, and now she's actually violent and strength. That's hilarious. And to reveal point, I needed like the only lit spot in the entire movie. It's only like a single light frame. That's right. Oh my god, dude. Whatever. Oh. Oops. Julia's actually somehow gotten worse in Hammer. She hasn't earned 10,000 Hammer murder hours yet, so Frank has to finish the job, except once the daughter walks in and he's like, right, no, how did that in? You're in 2 different relationships? Like, he's not your daddy, right? Unless that's some extremely weird and handless foreshadowing or something that he crazy, right? And when the daughter pokes Frank in his tummy guts and hugs his cube out the window, runs away with it, right past very judgy nuns. She passes out while this effort she's in here. And she wakes up in the hospital where her parents just watches time-lapse footage of flowers unfolding because that's the only kind of movie they can make in Europe, unlike American hospitals, where they just watch time-lapse. The doctor comes in and is like, the cops are going to want to talk to you, but she can't remember anything, so he's like, never mind, just crawl into this bed and play with this room and escape from hell. See if that job and or the pleasures of heaven and hell first and get back to the bed. Anyway, that'll be $10,000. Good luck. So she gets all opens up to the tunnel housing yes, thing she runs away from. And it's trying to show her immense pleasures unknown. It's so easy. He's probably great at hand stuff. Sticker stuff. I've never tried it. She's back in the hospital room. Yeah, Cenobites are there. And they're sticking fingers in her mouth. Which I'm just starting to realize is that people in Europe and or hell and or heaven just greet each other. I'm like, hello. Everybody in this movie is having trouble talking because all the fingers in them. Big trip to Europe. I'm just going to be walking around Europe shoving fingers in people's. Like, I saw Henry. Hello. How's your just a revolving ring? I guess because everybody thinks it's hot. How did it hot? Get over here. No. And she's like, what the hell? And they're like, heaven and hell, actually. And hey, you solved our little Rubik's Cube. You do that, you show up. And our motto is, solvers get belt fingers. It's not a great motto. That's Europe. But we Cenobites are explorers in regions of experience. Some call us demon. Some call us Larry, which I'm not sure where they got that from.
Now you must come with us.
Also, okay, wait, angels? Really? Name one person in recorded history that saw your slipped on some spilled orgy lube and fell through a sex shop window before rolling through a hardware store looking ass went, oh, is that an angel? Wow. You're like looking at Pinhead, you're like, ooh, that must be Gabriel.
Tyrell.
I got through. They're willing to negotiate. They'll call off the strike if, and this is one big ass if, we can deliver the vaccine to them before they march.
How long do we have?
Hours, maybe.
Anyway,
Let's not waste one more second.
This way.
Where am I getting Frank since he has eluded you in some way?
We'll find the vaccine up ahead.
I know where he is. Okay, why not say he lost him or he got away? Yes, that would be a great thing. Meanwhile, Frank is now.
Sure you don't need to stop?
Stop and do what? I got your back.
Let's pretend
All right, let's get this done.
The daughter shows up and goes, wow, I want to see my father. Hey, what's up, my definite dad? Her dad's like, oh, I'm just feeling comfortable in my own skin. Steve and Dad say this is almost there. Which unfortunately never realizes that's that thing with her uncle owns so great about the there. Only my mom was that. You want to put me in the air? Not dead. Well, you don't really want anyone to see that. That would. Frank then kills Julia, I guess. And when they finally end up in the attic, the daughter claims Frank was born out of wedlock. And he's like, well, my name is Frank. Frank. I've covered wars, you know. And then the Cenobites pop out and they're like, Jimmy, bitch! We need to hear you say your name was Frank. All reconstituted from the blood and flesh of several random men. Now, you name it, you know. Of course, I have my lips, but Cenobite law is very strict. Think they can just grotesquely torture anyone? Yeah, there's a complex system of checks and balances in place. It's a fascinating culture. We can learn so much from it.
This isn't for your eyes.
I guess like Cenobites don't have DNA tests or whatever. Look, I'm like 90% sure that you Frank, but unless you say that you Frank, you know, my hands are back up. The law is the law. He's a good track man. Bitch. That would be a fun show. Like a cop drama instead of women. Dave, that's what half of these movies are. Really? Oh my god. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, dude, they're mostly cop dramas in Hellraiser. The world's full of criminals. They look Frank with chains. And he sure screams a lot for a guy that I thought was supposed to be into this sort of thing. Okay, there we go. The daughter fingers the Rubik's Cube closed, thereby exploding the Cenobites one by one, including Pinhead. Sounds a lot like Arnold Schwarzenegger to me. I'm like getting the feeling of coming home to be fair, Arnold does love to explore alternate methods of pleasure.
Start the box.
That coming day and night. The house begins their and they killed the scorpion thing. Switches back before it can fully unleash its pleasure on them. And then they watch as the house definitely totally burns down. The movie's first definitely actually burned a house down. They definitely had the money for that. And then the daughter, or rather the orphan, chucks the cube in the fire, only for the homeless bug-eating guy from earlier to show up, pick up the cube, catch on fire, then turn into a skeleton dragon and fly away. I'm sorry, Dave, you look confused. confused. What about that doesn't make sense to you? How would you have ended that scene in this movie?
These aren't things that happen normally in your day-to-day life.
Then we weird transition back to the first scene again, where the same merchant self-include to a new horny customer. Man, this film.
What's your pleasure, sir?
I have to make it myself.
Always ask me, like, Caleb, what are you most afraid of returning to Earth? In hell. And I'm like, well, hey, I'm worried that my skin's gonna be weird, you know? What if it grows back odd? And then secondly, like dogs. Dogs, they kind of freak me out. And they're like, well, Caleb, are you not worried about the state of online privacy? And in particular, the fact that national public data was breached and all of those records are online, including the social security numbers of potentially every single American? And I'm like, oh, why would I be worried about that? This video that's chronicling me coming from like a tiny little goofy boy to like a big full boy, it's entirely sponsored by Aura, which is pretty amazing because Aura has all kinds of ways to protect my privacy. Like they've got a VPN for when I'm browsing online. They've got a password manager. They can even check out my credit score. But to the thing that you're specifically talking about, they actually search the internet and even the dark web for your data to see if it's been like compromised. Using your passwords, or emails getting plugged in weird places, or if your social security is popping up somewhere it shouldn't. And they're like, that sounds pretty cool, but I imagine a service like that is super expensive and also a waste of money if, in fact, you are not compromised in some way. And I'm like, my guy, if you go to Aura.com/reading, you get 2 full free weeks. You gotta pay nothing. Cancel at any time, and that's enough time for them to check to see if your data has been compromised from this leak or any other leak. And I'm like, if you don't believe me, guys, just look at our Discord. This guy, Devin, he says that he had more. His name is his blood on the moment. Every time you sign up, it keeps joining live. One time to watch the movies to bring people back to life, which is really kind of the main thing that I'm interested in. And then they're like, wow, that sounds great. So all we gotta do is sign up at Aura.com/reading, and then we get a full 2 weeks for free. And I'm like, that's totally right. And they're like, that's awesome. Can you just like continue with the video now? And I'm like, I totally can. I very much regret watching these already. Literally anything else. Like Pepsi and subjected into take that. There's no money in that. Could I make more money on YouTube just spraying Pepsi up my ass? That'd be so much easier. These videos, they're so long. Anyway, but no, we're gonna stick to this. Here's a brief visual recap of the last movie before some long-ass, boring opening credits, eventually revealing the title Hellbound Hellraiser 2, which is an unusual way to go about it. Should it be Hellraiser 2, Hellbound, or did the credits go Hellbound? It's just a title. We have to battle it with the Hellraiser. Oh, man. I will say, though, I cannot wait for Hellward Bound, the Hellfred Journey, Hellraiser 3. What's going on? Hellward could be sick. Dogs are good. Yeah. Chances of I just experience the ultimate pleasure and pain. What are you talking about, Chance? Show us, Chance. Chance runs up with little nipple clamps, waving some other dog's skin. Chance, you look different. I know. I've experienced pleasure you cannot comprehend. Whatever. Here's a dude living the dream. And by that, I mean sitting on the ground playing with a box. Whoops! He's savage on it. It's hooked. Which technically still living the dream because nightmares have dreams according to science. And actually, it turns out that he is Pinhead. This is Pinhead's origin. It's so cliche. Does he think he is Batman? Did he fall into a well full of nails? There, an S&M pincushion that goes around shredding people with chains. He might be a better deterrent to Gotham's crime than Batman. If Batman was like, I'm gonna suck your butt and also stab you, and you're like, he's like, I'm gonna give you pleasure and pain.
Out of the way!
Last movie's daughter, who I was trying to connect the dignity of by not revealing her true name, but it's Kirsty, okay? Like thirsty, but for James Tiberius Kirk.
First, welcome back. Anyway, she's in a because of gestures through the last week. Or God, end up there. What happened? Scorpion's trying to suck your butt and stuff. A homicide detective is like, what? And she's like, I'm gonna stay with you. Because what happened?
Antigens to increase immune system response.
But it was weird stuff. For example, the house isn't burned down, apparently. Cops are at the not burned house, and they find Julia's blood-stained mattress where she died. And Kirsty's immediately like, whoa, that is a bad mattress. If you policemen don't destroy this murder evidence, Julia will totally come back, which is bad. It's shocking. They don't believe her, even when she's like, you gotta do what David Jordan do every night. Destroy that mattress. It's never. I destroyed mine. Vigorous breeding techniques. David's
messed up real bad.
We both destroyed mattresses. Different things.
Yeah.
Right, so what happened here? Why are we here? This is like... Oh, and there's another new character's milling around here named Doc. Hi, Doc searching brains. And I guess. John safe. His pants are too high to be of much use anyway.
Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry.
Also, she does puzzles. It doesn't. She's also insane, but mostly in real life. She keeps getting arrested and is a registered sex offender in the UK. Fun fact. She's actually the scariest person in this. Later that night, Kirsty sees who she assumes is her gooey daddy, being like, hell. To confirm it's her father, she leaks the plot a little bit.
Hey, just like Jeffrey Tambor.
This is my father.
I mean, it works every time. I always know my daddy has been in hell by licking at blood spots left by his gooey body. Wouldn't want to accidentally leave him alone and separating gooey not lick. Lick, my bum.
He's alone and
An antigen.
Then Kirsty recaps the entire first homicide and Doc. Probably Dave wasn't even paying attention. Would Kirsty been on watch for hats? Just recapping the show. My jobs. I can like Patreon so I can unleash otherworldly pleasures like buying food for my kids. If I was Pinhead, I'd be like, the wall opens up and I come out with like, you're not $3. And I did look stupid. If you could just like on this video, wow, thank you. That's it. I don't want to waste your time. I really appreciate it. By the way, the asylum is a super secret maintenance floor filled with all the wackiest people. Dave's mom also has one of those. It's where we keep Dave when he shoots. His mattress just smells terrible. We can't replace it because every time we try, somebody inevitably gets their hand poked on a nail, and then blood gets on the ground, and a gooey guy comes out, he begs us to murder people for him, and it's a whole thing. So I don't need mattress or that a gooey comes in. Oh, brother. Speaking of, here's Doc arranging to have that nasty-ass mattress sent to his house. Science, probably. So he breaks into Doc's house and decides it's here. But also, so listen, it's not even that weird in here. Like, who doesn't have a blood-stained mattress in their office? Or for that matter, an extra insane guy. That's just one of the perks of being a doctor. As you might expect, Doc hands the extra guy a scalpel, not imaginary maggots on his stuff, and ultimately bleed it off to resurrect and get Julia from the mattress. They crawl around for a while, looking disgusting, until eventually she shoves her hand in his head and maybe eats his brain. And it's so nice to see Julia's character having a full arc. Like, first she was obsessed with a man's body and the rebuilding of it for purely carnal reasons, but now she's interested in a man's brain and eating it. But weak-willed, unsupported Kyle at some point slips out, realizing he's a little bit over his head. Like, I don't know what I was going to see. What this? What's this? Like, whoa, I was just hoping Doc was into some weird sex thing I could observe. Come on, necromancy. You're a weirdo. I was just hoping to see some sex stuff. Also, side note, Doc has at least 3 painful pleasure boxes. I didn't realize these things were mass manufactured and get them at Toys R Us. They sponsor you
chills? Whatever this is? I oh, Julia turns to the doc and is like, and be like, so screaming for help, actually, I'm gonna go get that eye flag. The doc's not that kind of thing. So he gives her a suit. Not alright. She still doesn't have skin. So he bandages her up, which I guess is enough for him to be like, okay, that's probably good enough for me to hook up with. But only if we keep it on the hush-hush. This has been a Batman reference from one of the, 12 comic books I've actually read. Dang it, Kyle! You just stayed around a little bit longer. You could have gotten all the stuff you wanted to watch. A little bloodier than most. Oh, you don't have the internet yet, so you're gonna work with what it's still getting. Magazine and etc. Yeah, do you have any skinless women? Why are we arrested? Julia stops them and it's like, oh, before we fully hook up now, we need. Looks pretty enough behind the doc's like, oh boy, you're totally right. I almost forgot you're currently in possession of skin. Just like that. Got some skin! I guess Mama here takes a few more dead bodies to fully construct compared to Frank. Typical woman, always needing more corpses to get ready. Kyle tells Kirsty what he saw, and is like, we should go stop. Whatever that is, it's hard to explain. And she goes to get her clothes, but it's like, oh, boy, you're totally right, I almost forgot. Kirsty is like, okay, we need a box so I can put Julia back in hell or heaven. No, wherever.
Julia just deserved to come back.
She was horrible. Skinny was been that. I know you are, dude. And also to retrieve my daddy back from, I think, explicit. And Kyle's like, amazing. Okay, let's go. Where do we start? Kyle and Kirsty immediately, though, separate within the house and get here, alright? And Kyle talks to Julia, but is completely unfazed by there being some other random woman in the house. Even when he walks into the murder room and she says, he still doesn't do the sensible thing and run away screaming, another one gone, another one gone, and another one sucked to death. Which weren't the original lyrics. The British are so much more sexually famously. Wasn't it great? I had never had as many fingers in my mouth as when I went to Britain. And Kirsty walks in and is like, hey, what the hell? Why did you do that? Come on, don't do that for the slap. Then suddenly Doc shows up with Tiffany the Puzzle Master, and he hands her a box, and she's like, stick. So she unlocks the box, and a bunch of doorways appear, and she explodes, and oh, hell yeah! The boys are back in town. You'd think they'd kill Tiffany, but no, because Tiffany didn't technically solve it. The doctor solved it with his desire. Obviously.
It is not as all us. It is desire.
So movies. She was just the conduit for his desire. We're gonna kill you, Doc, because it was actually your desire that made it possible for the box to be solved. And he's like, well, I wish somebody would have told me that. All I'm trying to do is hook up this skinless pervert lady from the bloodstained mattress that I caught back in Megan Knives. And you're making it all using the tip of the finger. We're not actually sure. It's not like he knew Julia would come out of the thing. Maybe if she did, he doesn't know what that is. But he's just like, I'm just going to have a dude murder himself on his own. Like, whatever calls out. I'm just gonna oh, nice. Oh, it's a girl, that's good. Oh, skin? That's oh, she wants I'll get some we'll get some beats with that. That's there have to be so many easier ways to meet than murdering people to bring your ex-boyfriend back, or like murdering people to see what creepy lady comes out of your bag. It's pretend. Give me 11%. Oh. It's that needed set by themselves have to argue specifics and throw around the nonsense bullshit logic.
Look, I used to be a lawyer, but
I just wasn't feeling it's hard to getting the sex gift from hell. It's like, again, you burn out. You gotta do something that you love. You gotta do something. Yeah. Anyway, Crispy finally rises from her bitch-slap-induced slumber, grabs a box, and runs through endless hallways, and there's blasting circus music and evil eyeball jiggling and piss and see and bloody versions of Charlie Hall. This is pleasurable, Dave. Put your hand down. Put this god dressing. I mean, for like normal people. Well, there's supposed to be some pleasure involved for somebody, but I'm not getting it.
They gotta be over
I
here.
explained to Kirsten that everybody like me watching this is in their own personal hell.
His own hell. Just ask him, are yours?